right. This final interview I'm really looking forward to. If you haven't noticed, and by that I mean you don't live in Johannesburg, Johannesburg is a mess. A lot of that is because coalitions, local government coalitions, keep falling apart. And so if you're not watching from Johannesburg tonight, you kind of need to watch this interview to know the dangers of coalitions, to make sure that it doesn't happen in your town or your city. Just so you know, and I mentioned this on the show last week, since 2019, Johannesburg has had more mayors than there have been winners of Love Island in the same period of time. That's a Dan Corder original fact, which I was quite proud to write. The last two mayors were puppet mayors put in place by the ANC and the EFF. These puppet mayors were from Al Jamar, and then they were both fired and sent back to Sesame Street. And we now have another mayor doing it for the second time. Dada Morero lasted 26 days the first time. He only just got a paycheck. And this time he's back as an ANC mayor again in a frankly bizarre coalition that does not look workable. It includes Action SA, which is the party that famously said that they wouldn't work with the ANC in 300 years. Well, Herman, here we are. And Dada Morero in the last week, in one of his first major interviews, said the most extraordinary thing. You know, politicians sell the dream, right? Dada Morero did not sell the dream. He said, don't expect me to get anything done in the next 2 years as mayor, because the problems are too big and the local government elections in 2026 are coming. Now, usually I would say, Dada, at least pretend, bro. Like, pretend you've got something going on, but maybe we can appreciate a politician being really honest for once. But I'm thrilled to welcome one final guest to today's show, who is someone who is one of the best people to speak to about coalitions, the state of Johannesburg, and the mayorship. So please welcome the wonderful and brilliant Ferial Haffajee to the Dan Corder Show.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much for being here. I've been reading your work for like so many years. It's a real wonderful moment to have you here. You wrote an excellent article a few days ago talking about how the ANC had basically now cooked its goose in Johannesburg for the 2026 local government elections. Can you take us through the key I guess, ideas that you had in that piece?
So, firstly, in the piece I say that Dada Morero, our sixth mayor since 2021, huge. I think that he's a seasoned politician, and he's certainly going to be better than the two mayors we've had before him. But unfortunately, he's made a coalition that's so big it's going to be unwieldy. Because what I've learned in covering Johannesburg exhaustively for many years now is that small Anyana parties, they're made up of political entrepreneurs. And really their only purpose there, as far as I've learned, is to extract as much as possible and to give work to small constituencies. So their focus isn't really service, and they probably have their eyes on the 2026 election. So this beautiful city, unfortunately, I don't see how it's going to change with such a coalition. I think what you needed here is a bigger coalition of a couple of parties who could get you over, could get a government, a local government, over the 200 seats, the 100 seats that it needs in order to govern.
Sure. And why do you say that you think the ANC has cooked its own goose? Do you think it's just not going to do well for the next 2 years and it will suffer in the polls in 2026? Because Joburg's really interesting. Another thing that people who don't live in Johannesburg may not know is it's maybe the most competitive city in the country.
You know, the ANC in Gauteng, it got 34%. I mean, whenever I go to ANC press conference, I don't think they quite get that in Gauteng, that you got 34%. You didn't even get the 40% which the national government got. By choosing the kind of government it has, by putting out the messages it's got, the clear message I'm getting is that they think things are not so bad. Wow. And that's probably why Dada Morero said in the News 24 interview, I can't do a lot in 2 years. It's probably true, but you need to say, at least I'm going to try. Yeah. I'm not going to win that pothole crown again and again and again here. But I think that what's happening in Gauteng and in Joburg is that the renewal of the ANC, that is its imperative at national level, because they can see the writing on the wall. I sat at the election centre and I watched Gwede Mantashe, Nomvula Mokonyane, Nkenke Kekana, old seasoned comrades, really getting the message as they looked at that leaderboard. You could see them going, oh, we hear it. That hasn't sunk in Gauteng and Joburg. And I could take you through many reasons of why that hasn't been done. Extractive politics, patronage is what rules the roost here. You don't see that renewal wind blowing through. And so for me, if it continues in this vein, the ANC is looking to 20-something% come 2026. Wow. And what's going to happen for those of us who love Joburg, who live here, great city, lovely energy, increasingly it's going to be different. It's going to be your creatives, business people, WhatsApp groups of people running the city basically, who are going to keep it going and hopefully see it thriving.
Yeah, it's funny because Johannesburg, its people exist in spite of its politics.
Absolutely.
And like make this an amazing city to be in. Again, sorry Cape Town, but I'm very happy where I am now. So Ferial, like we have seen, I think a lot of people find corruption to be an abstract ill,
yes,
but they don't see how this corruption scandal led to this department's dysfunction, led to this community losing its streetlights. It's like less directly personal than someone broke into your house and like took something from it. And so what I want to ask you is, what do you think are the major things that Johannesburg is failing at as a local government that need to be fixed? We know that the old CBD has got no security or like law enforcement meaningfully. We've seen all the building fires. We know that potholes are a crisis, that ironically in my area, whenever they come to fix the electricity, they somehow take out the water. So you get the electricity back, but then you lose the water for 2 days. What are the big things that whoever comes in 2026 need to fix immediately to get the city closer to back on its feet?
Sure. So it needs to fix the fascia of the city, that which holds it together. If you think of what's the skeleton that any city needs, and we know this so painfully, like you say, if you haven't got water, then you don't have electricity. I've just put in JoJo tanks. I don't know if you have. Many people putting in solar as well, because I count the stuff, you know, and there are thousands of water cuts across Joburg every day. Same thing with electricity. So you have to get those two things working, our transport working, and then very importantly for the young women who are so key to making Joburg magical, make it safe, get the street lights working. I looked last week across the city, be it from Zola to Sandton, thousands of street lights out. And so for me, those are the three crucial things you want to do. Really lovely things happening in the inner city, I have to tell you. This Josie My Josie project beginning to work. Symbolic things, the Nelson Mandela Bridge has been relit, the Rissik Street fountains back up, the Barbicans been sold, and so Bridge Books is moving into there. I could tell you lots of these stories. Those kind of partnerships are beginning to tick. And for me, what makes me hopeful about our city is that citizens are becoming active and they're beginning to join those dots. So corruption isn't notional any longer. Why is our city library closed for 3 years? Why did it cost 60 million rand? A fire door can't cost 60 million rand. Absolutely not. We need to develop that literacy to understand where's our money going to and what's it going to take to make Josie everything it can be.
And finally, I want to ask you, like, what's happening right now? Because I always feel like, you know, the election happens, we get new names, and then for 6 months, the news goes somewhere else. So I want to know, like, what you are looking at in your beat as, like, a top Johannesburg journalist on the Johannesburg beat. What is going on right now that we should be looking at in politics and business?
So in Joburg, I think there's this Josie My Josie project, which brings on board civil society, business, and the government, which is actually, they found the best people in the city to work with, and have got 12 things happening, cleaning up the on-ramps, off-ramps into the city, because when you enter a city or exit it, that's your impression of the city craft, what's it like. So that's very good. On the other hand, you've got the Joburg Crisis Alliance, which is the activist ones, and they were the ones who pushed very hard for Kabelo Gwamanda to step down, Gwamza as the people call him, to step down. And so that's why we have Dada Morero, who at least has a greater mandate to govern. For me now, it really is a moment that requires heightened civic activism rather than lesser, in order that we may begin to put right those key things. And I do think you need the energy of a Jordan Hill-Lewis, a young mayor, as you have in Cape Town. And then it's technical stuff, which is a bit like your census story earlier. It's what percentage do we spend on capex versus operational expenses? What's going to happen in the summer wage round? These are crucial to help us see what's going to happen over the next 2 years. And then an election tends to focus the minds of politicians. So we have to keep pointing out to them that in 2 years' time, you'll be gone if you don't do your work.
I love threatening a politician. No, okay. I love saying things that make a politician realize they must work. DA, do not email me again. Okay, so Ferial Haffajee, thank you so much. One final question,
Yes,
if I can
of
be
course.
very cheeky. So we've all witnessed the mess of the outsiders, the left behinds, the leftovers of the GNU, which is essentially can boil down to a bunch of tiny parties and then the EFF and the MK party
Yes.
kind of eating each other. But they both did fairly well, or at least serviceably well, in the recent national election in Johannesburg and in Gauteng. Now, you've already said that you reckon the ANC on its current bent will continue to lose support. What other parties do you think we should be watching for their rise or fall in the next 2 years in Johannesburg?
I think we're going to see something new formed, like a new centre. Parties will get together coherently. I have to say the EFF in Joburg is impressive. They work incredibly hard. They do their work quite well. Action SA has a very good caucus. And then the DA councillors of the caucus who just do that grind work of getting your water back on, dealing with city power, knowing how to get the new mayor out to Republic Road where a pipe burst happened 20 times. I think you're going to see the formation of something different, maybe even in a couple of years' time.
Man, the Joburg Whisperer, Ferial Haffajee, thank you so much for being here. And that is our show, the first ever full 1 hour Monday night, 9 to 10 p.m. Dan Quarter show. If you missed any of it or just want to watch it again to see me mess up a line or an interview you rock out, remember, full episodes are posted for free on enca.com, and we'll be back next Monday night because South Africa is a movie and this is The Watch Party. Have a great week.